Okay, Prep Ones, today's reading activity is inspired by this book from our classroom called Aussie Animal Splits, and we're going to make our own version. Remember, in this version, our animals, they're split in half, and then we can flip over the pages. So we've got Kookaburra, and there's the Kookaburra. But if we turn one half over, we end up with a Crockaburra, because we've got half the croc, half the Kookaburra. We're going to use this idea to make our own booklet today. And it starts like this. So you've got pages that look like this, and I've put in 5 drawings to get you started, and I've left 2 spaces here and also 1 space on the front cover for you to do your own animal. Now if you look closely, you can see there's 2 little lines here, and there's 2 little lines here, and that's where you want to line up your animal's body through those 2 lines if you can, so that they'll line up when we cut them out. So if it's a small animal, you might have to draw it a bit bigger to make its middle that big, and if it's a big animal, you might have to draw it a bit smaller. So that's our starting point. So here's one I started earlier, and for my front cover I decided I was going to draw a platypus. So I tried to put the middle of the body through those 2 little lines, and then on my next page I put a wombat and a dingo, and I started drawing them in grey lead, and then when I got up to the end I coloured them in texture and pencil so that they would really stand out. So here's my finished version, and I'm ready to start cutting. See, I went over these ones in texture so that they were a bit bolder. The next step I need scissors for. I'm going to start by cutting around the very outside edge, and then I'm going to cut there so that I end up with 4 pieces. So you can pause the video here while you cut. I'm going to fast forward this part. Okay, now I've cut all my pieces out, I'm going to put them in order. So I'm going to start with the front cover, that's number 1, and turn that over. And then I'm going to add number 2, which was the koala. Oh, you can see the texture went through on mine. 1, 2, 3 was the kangaroo. So that's number 1, 2, 3. 4, 5 the goanna, 6 the gecko, 7 is the wombat, and 8 is the dingo. So I'm going to line them up as carefully as I can, make a nice neat pile, and then the last thing is to staple the pages together. So there's a staple here, and a staple here. Okay, now I've got staples in the top. The last thing to do before I can make my animal splits is to do a snip. So while they're all together, I'm actually going to leave the back one together and fold up all of those pages, but I'm going to keep my dingo whole. Okay. Now you might need mum or dad to help because there's a lot of pages to cut through, but we're going to cut up this middle split line now. All the way to the top, And then we should be able to make some really funny animals. So there's my platypus. And now my platypus has a koala's head. If I turn this next one, I get back to my koala. But if I change one end, now I have a koaroo. What about if I flip a few on this time? I flip a few over. A possaroo. A dingaroo. This is a funny one. A dingbat. Have fun colouring in and putting together your animal splits book today and see what crazy animals you can come up with.